ball here. Harris scores. With 19 seconds left. Fake players, big boy. I'm telling you right now, that's awesome. I love it. That's the finish. You get a layup to take it. And an and one. Fly ball. Out of here.
Welcome, everyone, to our third season of the Bracket Report, second episode of that third season, a production of Delphi Bracketology from Delphi Community High School. I'm your host, Brian Tonsoni. Joining me today, also another teacher, Dave Gilbert, and then senior Cade Nelson. All of our work can be found on our website, delphibracketology.com, and we're very active on Twitter at Delphi Brackets. If you'd like to ask us a question, we'll be quick to try to get back to you and let you know where your favorite team is likely to be seated at the current state. This week, we have some teams in Indiana we like to cover, so we call it our Indiana Report. Dave, big Purdue fan, tell us about the Boilermakers.
All right, yeah, Purdue has continued their strong start. They are first in the Big Ten. They are number 4 in the net rankings, which the committee looks at. They also have 7 quad 1 wins after the win at Michigan State, so that is the most in the country. They are a number 1 seed right now, and could be in consideration for the overall number 1 seed. So they're solidly number 1 or number 2 overall.
The other Indiana team that we have in the bracket is the Indiana Hoosiers, but they have been falling. They had a 3-game losing streak. They're without 2 starters, and they're learning trying to how to play with their injured starters out. They had a nice win against Wisconsin, which for us keeps them in the bracket. They're going to be around the 10-11 seed line. We had them 11 going into this week. We had a meeting this morning. They're going to have to find a way to get some extra wins while those guys are out and hope that Race Thompson and Xavier Johnson come back, and then they win late in the season in order to make the tournament. We also have a couple teams that are playing well within their conference, Indiana State and Ball State. Cade?
Yeah, Indiana State is tied for first in their conference right now with a 6-2 conference record. They have 4 wins on the road, but they do have 2 quad 4 losses. But with Indiana State being one of the smaller teams in Division I, their best hope for getting in the tournament is winning their conference tourney at the end of the season. And with how strong they're playing right now, I think that's a good shot for them. And then Ball State's kind of the same story as Indiana State. They're second in the MAC conference with a 3-1 record, with an overall record of 12-5. I think for Ball State, their big Peyton Sparks, he's a sophomore. He's really the difference maker for them. Just having that big body in the post to help close out games is what I think will help them be a good bet to win their conference too.
So Notre Dame and Butler are also teams to watch. They're going to have to win their conference tournament. They've taken on a lot of losses. That's why we don't have a huge report on them. But they also can make that with a win of the ACC tournament or the Big East tournament down the stretch. So we talk a lot about resumes and what makes a resume. So to end our first segment, we're going to discuss a resume, what you hear us talk about. So in the shows to come all the way up until March, maybe that helps everyone understand. And you hear a lot about this quad system, and it's a bunch of numbers. I'm not going to read through a whole lot of them, but every win is given a quality ranking depending on whether it's a home win or it's a road win. For example, the net that Dave talked about earlier, and Kate will explain a little bit, the ranking, if you beat a team at your home court that is ranked 1 through 30, you get a quad 1 win. If you beat a team on the road that has a net ranking of 1 through 75, you get a quad 1 win. And the quad 1 wins are golden. The more you get, the higher ranking wins you get will make the tournament committee look favorably upon you. And then there are 4 quads, a quad 2, a quad 3, a quad 4, all broken down by numbers according to the net and numbers according to home and road. And there's even a division for games that are on a neutral court. So some of the tournaments that we saw early in November would have a neutral court designation, and I think that's 1 through 50 gets to be quad 1 wins. So a lot of times we'll talk about quad 1, 2, 3, and 4. For our viewers, the higher the quad wins, quad 1 wins and quad 2 wins, the better your team has a chance of getting in the tournament and getting a favorable seed. So let's talk a little bit about the net ranking, Cade. It's hard to explain. It's hard for us to understand, but tell the viewers a little bit about that net ranking.
Yeah, so our net ranking kind of combines with the quad system. It's just a formula that includes offensive and defensive efficiency. So teams with a 40 or better net are in the serious contention. Obviously, teams a little higher than that can still get in. But last year, 8 teams received an at-large bid with a net over 40. So like I said, even if your net is over 40, you can still get in. But that golden number we're talking about is 40 or less to be in the tournament.
The higher the net, the better you play basketball, offense and defensively. So we'll talk after Coach Gilbert talks about what else we look at, is that you tend to see the high nets and think they're better basketball teams, and you're not incorrect, but you also have to win games. So some other outliers, things that we look at on the resume that build a resume. Dave, share with our viewers.
Some other things we take a look at are the strength of schedule, as well as a team's road record and neutral record. Strength of schedule, you want to play more difficult teams. The higher your strength of schedule, the committee could take that into consideration. A team like this year, Oklahoma, doesn't have a great record, only about 11-6, but they have a 17 strength of schedule, so that's allowing them to stay on that bubble. Same thing with Creighton. Creighton's only 10-8, but they have the second highest strength of schedule in the country, and so that's why some people have them in the bracket and they're on that bubble as well. So the committee takes a look at that. As well as the road record. Purdue is 5-0 on the road. That's helping them and their case for being the number 1 overall seed. Xavier's another team that's 4-0 on the road. That is helping their seeding in the eyes of the committee as well. And so those are just some things that the committee looks at. It's a body of work. We've talked about that before. Sometimes when it comes down to a couple teams that are even with quad 1 and quad 2 victories, the next thing they might look at is that strength of schedule, or that road and neutral record to help kind of be a tiebreaker in the eyes of the committee.
So Dave talks a lot about how we combine all of this information to rank teams against each other. One of the things that we really want to share with you is that we compare 2, 3, 4 teams at a time. So a win doesn't automatically move someone up. A loss doesn't automatically move someone down. It's a comparison to several teams in an area using quad wins, the net ranking, the strength of schedule. And we debate back and forth which is the highest priority, and sometimes it changes from year to year. So after the break, we're going to dive into a couple of resumes specifically and talk about what we like and don't like on each team's resume. So stick with us after the break as we discuss these teams and how they have fared so far this season.
Oh, baby! That got me awake! The worm has turned in Logansport. Look at that play. The lob underneath, and if you don't get any picture perfect more than that. That young man will be glad that our cameras were here for tonight's contest.
Welcome back to the Bracket Report. I'm Brian Tonsoni. I'm with Dave Gilbert and Cade Nelson, and we're going to look at a couple of resumes. We just got done explaining some of the data that goes into a resume. And so we usually do a team moving up and teams moving down, but we've broken that down into one team moving up and what's on their resume, and one team moving down, and we're going to do a deep dive on those resumes so you see how we discuss this in our community. And so the team that's moving up for us this week, I thought it was moving up again last week, is Kansas State. They had a loss here recently, but they are really, really solid, and they are playing. They're 15-2 overall, which is a great record. They have 4-1 in quad 1, so those are their quad 1 wins. So Dave, as you look at Kansas State, what sticks out to you for a reason to move them up in the top 4 or 5 seed lines.
Earlier I talked about the committee will take a look at your road record, and they have had 2 big road wins in the last couple weeks. They won at Texas, who was 11 in the net, and they also won at Baylor, who was 19 in the net. And so, when we talk about quad 1 wins, some quad 1 wins are better than others. And so those are high quality quad 1 wins that the committee will really look at when it comes to seeding in the tournament. And so that's why, I would take a look at them as moving up in the last couple weeks to go along with their 14 net.
We have them right now, I think, as a 3 seed. We talked about possibly moving them and Xavier from the 3 line to the 2 line in this morning's meeting. Cade, pick something out on Kansas State's resume and tell us why you like them.
Like Gilby said, the quality of the quad 1 wins is great, but the fact that they have the quantity of quad 1 wins is the thing that I like to see the most. When a team is able to get 4 quad 1 wins, those wins aren't going to go away, and that amount that will stay there over the entire length of the season will only, back up the awesome resume that they already have.
If you're looking for something on the resume that is a little bit of a struggle, there's also predictive metrics and other categories of math on this team sheet other than the net. And some of their other metrics, Ken Palm has been used. ESPN has a BPI and a Sagarin rating. They have them like 20 spots lower than the net. So their predictive measures, their basketball has been okay, but how does it compare to someone else? There really isn't anything that is glaring, that is negative about Kansas State. That's why they're one of the top 12 teams in the country. So when we move to our team moving down, right now the Arkansas Razorbacks are really struggling. They've had some injuries, and you don't just dismiss the losses because of the injuries. But let's look, Cade, at Arkansas. Why is Arkansas struggling right now, even though they're at 26 net?
The reason Arkansas is struggling, to me, is just the fact that over this recent stretch of games, they've dropped their last 3. And although those games weren't bad losses, it does hurt a team when they have opportunities to get quad 1 wins. No matter who you have good players on your team. At some point in the season, they got to be able to pick up a key win that will strengthen their resume.
Dave, what do you see in Arkansas's resume?
I take a look at their quad 1 wins. They only have 2 quad 1 wins, but like we were talking about earlier, it's not the high quality quad 1 wins. These are against teams that are either on the bubble or may not be in the tournament. Also, they don't have any road wins. So if it comes down to a tiebreaker type situation that the committee is looking at, they don't have any road wins yet to help boost their resume.
They don't have any, quote, bad losses, no quad 3 or quad 4 bad losses, but they're sitting at a record in quad 1 and 2 of 3 and 5. Their non-conference strength of schedule is only 198, and they're missing some players, some of which they're not sure they're going to get back. So since they've missed these players, they've been on that losing streak that Cade was talking about. So their net 26 puts them in a 5, 6, 7 seed range, but we have them as a 9 because of their lack of quality wins, their lack of road wins, and you combine all that, and you see an Arkansas at 26 net is our 34th ranked team. It's below its net. So Kansas State's moving up, Arkansas's moving down, and you heard some of our conversation. Sometimes we'll go half an hour on one comparison between 2 teams, and we're not comparing Kansas State and Arkansas necessarily, but these are the things that we pull out of our data to have a discussion on where we put teams. And now what everyone likes to know is what are our top 4 seeds, and that's the business that we're in. So, Dave, if you'd take one seed at a time and share with our viewers who's on what seed line, and then we'll all comment on those teams.
All right, we'll start with our number 1 seeds. We have Kansas right now as the number 1 overall seed, with Purdue, Alabama, and Houston rounding up the 4 number 1 seeds.
Yeah, Alabama's new. They just continue to win. They've had a little bit of a tough news with a player getting into some trouble, and we'll just leave it at that because it's a pretty serious issue. We don't know how that'll affect their team. He's no longer with the program. He was a part-time player, so from a basketball perspective, but it was a much bigger issue than basketball. We discussed Kansas or Purdue as the overall number one. I'm leaning to maybe make that change before we put out a bracket later this evening to make Purdue the overall number one seed. Cade, agree or disagree?
I would agree, but the one thing for me about Purdue moving up is that their non-conference strength of schedule is 108, which is the weakest out of the top 4 teams, which necessarily isn't a bad thing, but just the fact that it is the weakest just shows me that at the beginning of the season, they weren't playing the toughest teams, and even now, getting into some conference games, they've had some real close games, so I just like to keep an eye on Purdue, mainly because so many of my friends like Purdue, and I think it's funny when they lose because they get so mad. But yeah, just that conference strength of schedule is something that I'll keep a watch on.
Why should Purdue be the overall number one, Dave?
They do have the most quad 1 wins at 7. Nobody else has that many. They also are undefeated still on the road in neutral site, which the committee takes a look at that as well.
And they have Zach Edey, the guy that's impossible to guard. All right, Dave, who do we have on the 2 seed line?
Our 2 seeds, we have UCLA, Texas, Gonzaga, and Tennessee.
The question for me, I love Tennessee, big fan of Tennessee, but they took a tough loss at home against a Kentucky team that at that point was not in the bracket. They've lost to Colorado at home and Kentucky at home, and Colorado is not near our bracket. And they only have 2 quad 1 wins. So I think that's the team that could move down if we want to move an Xavier and a Kansas State up. UCLA is moving up. They just continue to win. And Gonzaga, who lost some games early, they've been squeaking by. I'm not sure they deserve a 3 seed, but, they're good. And they haven't had any bad losses. Cade, your thoughts on our 2 seed line?
Our 2 seed line, most teams are the same when it comes to the top 4 seeds in general. But for me, just to help any of these teams out to stay where they're at right now, like you were saying, is just to pick up a couple of road wins. Because as we were saying, the road wins are kind of our tiebreakers. Yep. And so when it comes down to a team either dropping or staying there, I think road wins are definitely the best way to tell if it's a solid team or not.
Dave, do you have a team here that might move up to the number 1 seed at some point, or?
I'm just keeping a look on Texas. They play in a tough conference. They lost their coach. You don't know how that's going to impact them long term this season. So just keeping an eye out on them. If they pick up these wins and the tough Big 12, they might have that chance to bump up there to a 1 seed.
Then it always goes to, do we put 2 teams from one conference on the same 1 seed line? We've had as many as 3. I think the ACC a few years back had 3 teams on the 1 seed line. Okay, let's move on to our 3 seed line.
Our 3 seeds, we have Kansas State, Xavier, Arizona, and Iowa State.
Man, I love Xavier, the way they play. Coach Miller avoided some difficulties with I guess the NCAA with what went down at Arizona, so he didn't have any penalties, and he's been hired back at Xavier, and they're just playing a really fun brand of basketball, winning some big games in a tough Big East. That's my team that I think should probably move up. Cade, your thoughts on the 3 seed line?
We talked about Kansas City just a second ago, but they're the only team on the 3 seed line, that has the quality of quad 1 wins like we were talking about. And those quad 1 wins, I think, they're never going to leave. And I think that's a strong team on the 3 seed line.
And potentially have a game of the week that you might talk about a little bit later. Gilby, as you look at this 3 seed line, what do our viewers need to pay attention to?
Just continue to see how the Big 12 plays out. There's 2 Big 12 teams we have on the 3 seed line right now. Iowa State, only has 2 quad 1 wins right now. With their net of 10, they're deserving, according to the net, of being a 3 seed. But we'll just see that, like I said earlier, with those Big 12 teams, there's going to be a lot of opportunities to get those quad 1 wins. We'll see if Ohio State can continue that as well.
We had Arizona on the 1 line for a long time. They've lost some games, so watch, they're a little bit on the slide. And we have a team on the 4 seed line that's dropping as well. Dave, what's our 4 seed line?
The 4 seeds, we have Connecticut, Virginia, Marquette, and Baylor.
Baylor's creeping their way back in. They've had some injuries. The Cryer point guard has been out, and they are starting to win. They have no losses outside of quad 1, which is something that we look at too. They don't even have any quad 2, which are good games, losses to those. They just have losses to quality teams. So I'm keeping my eye on Baylor. Love Shaka Smart at Marquette. He's doing some great things. Connecticut struggling a little bit, Cade.
Yeah, Connecticut, they were, like, their net is still 5, or the 5th net, so that's the best thing they have going for them. And to me, that team's still a strong team, but to have that quad 3 loss is like, I mean, it doesn't take away anything that they have now. It just doesn't really help their case much.
Dave, your thoughts on our 4 seed line?
Just looking at Marquette, like you said, that they're just a team that's really been impressive this year. That not a whole lot was expected of them. Leading the Big East right now, and just continuing to get impressive wins.
So those are our top 16 teams in the country, according to what we believe. Then the next few seed lines, 5 through 8, are comfortably in right now, unless they have bad losses. Those teams are not. And then when we come back in the break, we'll talk some bubble, where teams in the 9, 10, 11 seed, they need to win, and then teams on the outside obviously need to win. But these 4 are your best teams right now, and we'll see if there's any movement. But stay with us after the break. We're going to discuss what's going on in the Big Ten, some bubble teams, and then our games of the week, games to watch here on the Bracket Report.
Ball here. Harris scores. With 19 seconds left. Fake players, big boy. I'm telling you right now, that's awesome. I love it. That's the finish. You get a layup, take it, and an and one. Fly ball. Out of here.
Your life is on the go. Now your viewing habits can be on the go. With the ISC Sports Network app, your team is at your fingertips. You can download years' worth of content from the ISC Sports Network library. High school, college, special events, weekly and monthly shows, wherever you find your favorite app. And you can always find out more information at iscsportsnetwork.com.
You are watching the Bracket Report, a production of Delphi Bracketology. I'm Brian Tonsoni here with Dave Gilbert and Cade Nelson. And the Big Ten. We're in Big Ten country. We like to talk about the Big Ten. I'm going to give a quick roundup of what we have in the Big Ten and then move on to some bubble talk. But the Big Ten has 4 or 5 teams that are comfortable, I believe, right now. In Purdue, a 1 seed. Illinois, 5 or 6 seed line. Rutgers, a 6 seed. Iowa, also a 6 seed. I think those 4 teams are very, very comfortable. And then you get Michigan State, who lost Hall, one of their players, for the season and has now lost 2 in a row. Wisconsin has lost 3 in a row. We have those at an 8 or 9 seed. And then you have the 5 teams that throw them in a hat. Some teams could be in, some teams could be out. Northwestern and Maryland, 10 or 11. Penn State, 10 or 11. Indiana State and Ohio State, all on that bubble. I don't believe the Big Ten will get 11 teams in, but 11 teams are very close for us to be in on the Big Ten. Your quick thoughts on the Big Ten?
I just think it'll be fun to watch the Big Ten play each other. We know that all these teams are quality teams that have the ability to win games, and I don't feel like we've ever seen a conference this strong be able to play each other for this many games. So I'm curious to see how that'll affect their amount of quad 1 wins and how that'll kind of play out later on.
You bring up my big question is when they beat up on each other and you have a bunch of teams 9, 10, 11 wins in the Big Ten, they get those quad 1, but their overall record looks bad compared to other conferences. Dave, your thoughts on the Big Ten?
So far Purdue has kind of separated itself, from the rest of the Big Ten. And right now we don't have really any other Big Ten teams on the 1 through 4 seed lines. So once again, come March, that's always been the question with the Big Ten the last 20 years or so. Can they make a deep run and win a championship come March? And really, Purdue's probably the only one that might have the chance this year. It will be interesting to see how they beat up each other the rest of the season. Like you said, there's probably not going to be 11 Big Ten teams in the tournament. That will play itself out, and it'll be interesting to see how it does play itself out.
We had a discussion this morning about moving a couple of those Big Ten teams out and some Mountain West teams that we have good nets reported on, moving them into the tournament, so we'll see. And then we want to talk bubble here before we end the show. The bubble is generally the last 10 teams in our bracket. Those teams are in danger of a bad week falling out of the tournament, and then teams that are on the bubble but out are teams that we considered in. We did an exercise this morning at our meeting where we had everyone pick one team that you would take out and one team that you would put in. Cade, kind of your discussions here. We're not going to go over every team, but a team that's in jeopardy of falling out and a team that you think could move in with a win or two.
Yeah, to me, even this morning, I talked about Wake Forest moving out. Their net is 76, and they're 3-4 in quads 1 and 2, and we like to see that quad 1 and 2 record be at least 500. And so just the way that they're playing right now, if they could pick up one more win to even out that record, then they'd make a solid case. And the team to move in, I like Boise State, just for their net and their strength of schedule. You know, those two things being that solid, and their road record being 3-2 gives them all the qualities to be a team in.
I think Boise State and Nevada play tonight, and we have both of them out. So a game to watch tonight might be to watch the winner of that and moves into a bracket. Dave, one team out and one team in from our bubble.
I was looking at Oklahoma. Their overall record's not great at 11-6. They have a decent net at 45, but if you look at kind of a deep dive at their quad 1 wins, they have 3 quad 1 wins, but they're not high quality. They're not against teams that we would consider in the tournament. So I would take them out. Maybe take a closer look at Missouri and having them in. I know they've struggled a little bit recently, but they do have some quality wins, and they have some more opportunities at those quality wins later on this week as well.
My team to move out would be Memphis. Maybe actually 1 or 2 Big Ten schools probably need to drop out. You said it best. They're going to take care of itself with the wins and losses. But Memphis is 1-2 in quad 1 and 3-3. Those 3 losses in quad 3 stick out against everyone else on the 11 seed line. And then I'm with you. I think Missouri moves in. We'll have an updated bracket probably right after this show airs. So check us out at Delphi Bracketology. And as we end every show, we're going to talk about games to watch because there's a lot of good college basketball on. And so Cade started his own segment last week. We're not going to run through every day now. We're just each analyst is going to pick a game to watch and explain why you need to tune in. So, Cade, fire away.
Yeah, I picked Kansas at Kansas State, and we've talked about Kansas State, I feel like, the entire show. But just the fact that in their last 4 games, they've averaged 90 points, and the quality of wins that they've gotten over Texas and Baylor on the road, their fans are finally getting to see them play a high-quality game at home. So I think they'll come into the stadium ready to be the 6th man for them and help them get a key victory over Kansas.
So that game airs tonight. So after you watch us, go find it on your local cable and tune into that game. Dave, what's your game of the week?
I'm taking a look at Alabama at Missouri on Saturday. We've already talked about Alabama being on the 1 seed line. This is a chance for them to get a quad 1 win on the road to just enhance their resume even more. And Missouri has lost 3 of 4 after they got off to a good start, and they really need a quality quad 1 win to help boost their resume. We talked about them on the bubble, and any quality quad 1 win they can get is going to help boost their resume.
And my game of the week is UCLA at Arizona. I think it's 2 o'clock on Saturday. You have a number 2 seed in the Pac-12 and a number 4 seed currently on our list. I believe Arizona's a 4 seed or a 3 seed. Arizona is a 3 seed. So a 2 seed versus 3 seed. This is a seed-laden game. You'll hear that, where maybe the winner moves up and down because they're very close to being compared. But 2 national championship contenders going at it Saturday in the Conference of Champions, as Bill Walton, love him or hate him, would say. So that'll do it for this episode of the Bracket Report. Thanks to ISC Network for hosting our show. Please contact us on Twitter at Delphi Brackets. Follow us at our website, Delphi Bracketology, for our latest seed list and bracketology and a few articles. I'm Brian Tonsoni for Cade Nelson and Dave Gilbert. We thank you for watching, and make sure you root for your team to win on the road and win those quad 1 and 2 games. Happy hoops watching.
For the ultimate Wi-Fi experience, you need a managed Wi-Fi service with advanced Blast Wi-Fi. Blast Wi-Fi systems provide ultimate coverage, ultimate performance, and ultimate power all the time. Available from Mulberry Telecommunications.